You're listening to JM Partners Atlanta Market Eavesdrop, a quick real estate update from Jerry Metcalf Partners, real estate agents on the ground in Atlanta, talking about what it's like, what to expect, the pros, the cons, and what to consider to align yourself and your loved ones for the best opportunities. Hi, everybody. It's JM Partners, Adam Vickers, Bridget Posey. 3 things to know this week with us.
Hello.
Welcome. 3 things to know.
Awesome. All right. So we are talking this week about why it's not a bubble and what to do about it if you're thinking about buying or selling a home. Number one, we're going to hit 3 things twice. Number one, 3 things to know why it's not a bubble. It's literally an inverse of the 2006 bubble. Loans are not hard to get. Loans, you have to qualify for them now, and you actually have to have a down payment. You kind of didn't before. Number 2, supply now is low. Supply and building permits were high. We were talking like we were hitting years and years of inventory on the market in the last 2006 bubble. And in the 2006 bubble, I remember buying a home and thinking this home cost me twice as much to own, and I had to make a down payment back then, and it would have been half that much to rent. In today's market, when you buy a home and own it, renters are still paying more to be in homes than homeowners are. So those 3 things are the real strong factors of the inverse of what's going on in our market. What that means, we talked last week about affordability, about jobs coming in, especially into Atlanta. What all of these things combined mean is that the demand for homes will continue and the market will continue to grow, which means if you're a buyer or a seller, it's actually a great time to pull the trigger if you're thinking about, or you know you need to do either one. So what do you do about it? Number 1, you need to know how to play the game. Number 2, know what you want. If you know what you want, you're not going to get what you want. If you're just out kind of looking until you maybe find something what you want, it's a lot harder to pull the trigger, know the terms. And then number 2, you've got to have the right team members. You've got to have the right team members that can pull off the loan. They're not so easy to get the way they were back in 2006. You've got to qualify. You've got to move fast. And ideally cash, but you can compete with cash. We talked about this on the show before, if you know how to do it. So that sums up 3 things to know, double over. So Adam and Bridget, do we have any fun examples we want to share with everybody on this?
I think it's key to make sure that speaking to buyers, they need to be ready. If they're wanting to buy and their time frame is now, they have to be ready. There's not a lot of time to think.
And I think something important to add on to that for sellers, obviously we represent a lot of sellers in this market and we sell homes obviously quickly in this market. And the key is knowing that more buyers terminate. So the thing to know on that is, how do we know a buyer, representing our sellers to know that we get the right buyers that are not going to terminate or be difficult through the due diligence and that we're going to get to a good, strong close?
Yeah, we've talked about that before on the show with, just the communication between us and the buyer's agents is to really get a background on who that buyer is, what they're doing, where they're coming from, what they're looking for. Once you have put all those pieces together, it really gives you some insight on how strong the buyer is and how qualified they are and what their likelihood to close will be.
So great examples you've given, Bridget, there are 2 options in the state of Georgia, everybody. Due diligence is the way we go, and what that means in the state of Georgia is a buyer can terminate for any reason whatsoever. That can be a little nerve-wracking for a seller. We have a lot of ways around that. Number 1, Bridget has spoken this many times, buying an option. That means you put up a portion of your earnest money or an amount of money that's completely non-refundable. It's like, hey, I am giving you this money to assure you I'm an earnest, like legit earnest buyer and not going to terminate and don't have any intention of it. And number 2, right to request repairs, which I know we're working on multiple deals that are right to request repairs and buying options in this market, which makes a huge difference.
It does. It makes a huge difference and the sellers like it. So whether you're representing the seller or you're submitting an offer for a buyer, it's one of those, it starts you off on a great foot and it gives you that edge.
Exactly. And what's interesting in this market is the negotiating the deals. I'm noticing, as we're representing a lot of sellers, that navigating with a buyer, sometimes it's really important to understand as a buyer what's really important to the seller. We've had several negotiations where I've found the buyer or the brokers are assuming what's important and not open to conversations about they're assuming what's important to a seller and not really receptive or hearing what's important to the seller. And there have been some pretty simple terms that would have actually navigated a great deal for that buyer, and just really, really being attuned to those things and listening to what the situation is, representing buyers and sellers to make sure, even though we're a hot market, terminations are happening more than often, how do we make sure we navigate through those and that they don't happen? Mm-hmm. All right, everybody, we're going to close this out unless anybody has any final fun thoughts.
No, I mean,
it's a great market. 3 things to know, jmpartners.io. What's that?
I said it's a great time to sell.
And buy. You just got to know what you want and know how to navigate it because these prices are going to keep going up with the jobs going up, with the people moving in. Mm-hmm. Sales prices are going to go up. Demand's going to continue. Inventory is limited. You just got to know how to navigate it the right way to make it happen with JM Partners. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Again, 3 things to know. If you want to keep up with the market every week, we're in any place you can find a podcast, or just go to 3thingstoKnow.jmpartners.io.
Thank you for listening to the JM Partners Atlanta Market Eavesdrop. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and share with your friends who might be moving or who just want to keep up with the latest on the Atlanta residential market. You can find us anytime online at jmpartners.io. That's jmpartners.io.